You're watching the Chucktown Wind Report, Monday, January the 11th update. It's about 9:15 p.m. We're going to talk about winds and weather for the next couple of days and even later into this week and weekend as well, as we could see some increasing winds coming at that point. So right now, we're seeing a system pattern change in the southeast region due to this cold air surge, Arctic surge of cooler air coming down from the north. And what that's doing is instead of having these high pressures setting up along the eastern seaboard up in the mid-Atlantic region, pulling down a north or northeasterly wind, what we're seeing now is we're having ridge of high pressure built down across the Gulf states, and what that's doing in turn is providing a westerly flow across our area and up into North Carolina as well. So that will continue to be the pattern for the next couple of days. I think tomorrow we may see a pulse. There's some mid-level troughing that's starting to develop across from the Gulf. There's a little bit of a connection from the Gulf where we have two centers of high pressure. One is pulling up some moisture along this area in the mid-levels, and then the other one's bringing the westerly flow across. So there's a little bit of a push for a possibility for some west or even west-southwesterly winds tomorrow. We could get a little bit of that southerly element off of a sea breeze tomorrow. The air temperatures are only going to make it into about the mid to upper 50s, so not a lot of warmth there to help out with it, but we could see some maybe mid-teens develop along a west-southwesterly flow later in the afternoon, if not along a westerly flow. But I'm going to go ahead and call for tomorrow, probably start out below 10 knots in the morning and work its way up into the afternoon as the sun comes up. During some of that peak heating, we could start to see some of those pulses, especially in the harbor in those open areas. So I'm going to go ahead and call for 12 to 16 knots in the harbor with some potential for higher builds if that troughing slips down slope like we saw today. I could actually get an observation on the cloud line as it approached the coast and then it broke up, but it might be enough to tighten the gradient just along the coast to get those numbers up. As we get into Wednesday and Thursday, things look to calm down quite a bit with just mild weather, mild westerlies. This high pressure, basically the center is going to be closer over us. We may even see some southerly sea breezing if the winds die down below 5 or 6 knots. But I'm expecting that westerly flow to pretty much prevail through the week for the most part. Now, as we get into Friday, we start to see a stronger cold front come together and approach the east coast, and then we get a surge of southerly winds, maybe southeasterly winds ahead of it, depending on the angle of the approach of the cold front. It usually follows in line with the vertical nature of the cold front, and then as that passes through into the weekend, we'll have another driving wedge of high pressure coming down across the country, and that'll increase the westerly winds. So we could be talking upper teens to low 20s as far as Saturday and Sunday goes. A little too early to tell right now, but at least it's something to keep your eye on. Let's take a quick look at GRE on radar, and you can see the dry air in place pretty much across our area. There's some snows going on in Indiana, down in Ohio, even in the Kentucky Valley. We'll probably see that cold front drop some snows all the way down and across into the North Carolina mountains and then dry out as it hits the coastline. But here's some of that mid-level troughing I was talking about. So even though we're calling for sunny skies tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised to see some of this mid-level troughing and maybe even develop some lower level troughing in order to get that gradient steepened where we get this sort of a west or west-southwesterly flow. I don't think we're going to see a full southwest flow unless the high pressure ridge develops off our coastline. I just don't think the warm air temperatures are going to be, the air temperatures aren't going to get warm enough to create this heat fluxing event to bring southerlies up. So I do think we're going to keep that west or west-southwest flow going for tomorrow. Now, if we look at Datascope for Charleston, here we go. There's not much going on here. We have very light winds in the harbor. We have 5 knots at the Fort Sumter Front Range Light. We have land shadowed areas such as Sullivan's Island, Isle of Palm showing 2 and 3 knots. Folly Beach 0. All of these are land shadowed out. So pretty quiet for the most part. Let's take a quick look at the models and what they're saying. And right now we're seeing this northwesterly or westerly flow. And then as we go on through the week, the models as we we have these high resolution models, which is the North American Model 5K or NAM 5K and the HER 3K. As we go in time, those drop off because they're higher resolution. They only go out for so much time, and you can see that their trends keep the westerly flow going until they drop off. Then the medium resolution and lower resolution models keep that going all the way through the week. Now here's Friday with that cold front approach where some of the models are starting to jump on board with the southerly winds, but we also have to remember that the marine layering due to cooler shelf waters along the beaches probably won't allow that build to happen right along the coastline. It'll happen just inside the harbor mouth and inland where some of that warmer air allows it to mix to the surface. As we get into this weekend, here's that westerly build. The models are starting to jump on it. I think they're a little bit light on the winds for right now, but we'll see what happens as we get closer to the weekend. We can't really go into too much detail about that right now. And that pretty much wraps it up for the winds. As far as air temperatures go, We're looking at probably upper 50s tomorrow, maybe a little bit cooler on Wednesday in the low to mid 50s, and then we start to warm up again back into the 60s for Thursday and Friday. So, air temperature wise, we'll probably get back. We're going to be in the freezing temperatures tonight. Definitely in freezing temperatures, so watch those wind chills in the morning if the wind does come up to about 10 knots or so. It'll definitely feel cooler. And then as we get into Wednesday and Thursday, the overnight lows are only going to be about the mid 30s. So we stay chilly at nighttime, but warming up in the daytime as we go into later in the week. Our sea surface temperatures right now, I think I had it pinned right around about 60 degrees. So let's take another quick look and back out from the coastline. And if we look at the table down here, we're showing about 59 or 60 degrees. So that's about right. Our shelf waters are starting to cool, these cooler temperatures being in place, so we can expect it to drop a degree or two, maybe even get down to 58 before the warm up later in the week. And I think that's going to do it for the Chucktown Winter Report, and I will try to come back on over the next couple of days if anything significant changes, but I think things are going to be pretty quiet until we get to Friday and into this weekend, except with the exception for tomorrow, we could see a little pulse. And I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching.